No apologies today, Chair.
Thanks, Peter. Item 1, declarations of interest. Are there any interests to declare, in which case the member will need to leave the meeting during the consideration of that item? Have we got any today? No? Thank you. Item 2 is the minutes of the last meeting on the 5th of March, pages 1 to 9. Are those last meeting minutes agreed? Thank you. Item 3 is mayoral reports, and there are none to be considered today. We do have a lot of public recommendations today, 11 in total. I'll just take you through them. Item A is the acceptance of the Holiday Activity and Food Programme grant, which is on pages 10 to 16. This recommendation seeks approval to accept a grant of 2.6 million from the Department of Education to enable holiday activities and healthy food to be provided to disadvantaged children. It means we can offer free holiday club provision for all children eligible for free school meals, and we all know what a great relief that is to parents during those times. We can provide healthy food as well and offer advice to parents on how to prepare and cook nutritious and low-cost food. These are schemes that we've done, as people know, across the last spring break and also across the Christmas holidays. Anybody want to comment? Linny?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just want to welcome this report. I think it's really important that we thank Suzanne Metcalf, who's worked really hard on this, because it's been backwards and forwards in terms of, I'm really passionate around that this is about good food and nutritional food for children and young people. So I think when we get all these grants, and there's 3 on the coming up, or there's 3 this morning, we have to remember that this is all additional work for our officers. You know, it's okay getting these grants, but it's actually monitoring them and making sure they get out. And our third sector organisations who work with these children, you know, it's a boost to them, but it's a lot of work, additional work to our officers who have been doing this right throughout the pandemic. So I want to welcome the report, but also really thank Suzanne and the team, because it's a lot of extra work, but to protect the most vulnerable. And in terms of the education part of it, for good nutritional food for our kids, it's really important. Thanks.
Thanks, Linny. Yes, that's really important. So are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yeah, thank you. As you said, Linny, another one, item B, which is the acceptance of further grant to support clinically and extremely vulnerable individuals. And that's on pages 17 to 21. And the recommendation seeks approval to accept a further grant allocation from MHCLG of 630,000 to support clinically extremely vulnerable individuals with advice and support during the extended lockdown. Again, this will enable continuation of contact to assess food and other support needs and ensuring that support is delivered. And likewise, you know, I echo Linny's point from before. This is additional work that our staff are undertaking on top of their ordinary duties, and it's been fantastic. We've been able to do it, and it's great to get some further support in doing that. Any other comments?
Yeah, just a quick one. This is for those people who are on the shield and framework, and whilst, you know, there's still people out there who are really, really worried, it hasn't gone away, and I think this work has to continue until people are confident again. So, you know, it's just another welcome report, really.
Thanks, Linny. Yeah. Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yeah, thank you. The third one, item C, on pages 22 to 25, is acceptance of additional COVID winter grant funding. And again, that's a grant of just under 850k from the DWP. And again, it's to support those most in need with the cost of food, energy, water bills and other such costs, providing direct assistance to vulnerable households and families. with children particularly affected by the pandemic. Again, another welcome batch of money, but obviously we know quite often the money doesn't cover everything that those most vulnerable families need. And we know, particularly with people being at home, working at home, you know, sort of being right across the winter, people are really, really worried about their fuel bills going forward. And although there is support for some families, you know, this additional support is really, really welcome. Any further comments? No? Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Thank you. Acceptance, item D, sorry, is acceptance of grant funding for the retrofitting of non-compliant buses under the Liverpool City Plan, and that's on 26 to 30. And the recommendation seeks approval to accept the grant, which will enable around 200 buses to be retrofitted to upgrade to Euro 6 equivalent by reducing tailpipe emissions to atmosphere. Any remaining monies will be used for delivering air quality improvements and support individuals and businesses affected by any local air quality plans. Laura, do you wish to say a few words?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this report and the one that comes after it at 4E, really important in terms of our whole city. We really do need to clean our air. The government's mandating us to do so, but of course it's extremely important in terms of our health. So the two reports sit together there. As I say, it's about cleaning up our air. We've also, of course, got to reduce our carbon emissions, and this sits very well with our agenda and our pledge to get to net zero carbon. And it's about encouraging people to use public transport as well as active travel and working in partnership with Mersey Travel to do so. Thanks, Laura. Any further comments?
No? Are the recommendations set out in the report agreed? Yeah, thanks. Item E, as Laura's just said, the Liverpool Clean Air Plan update and the proposals to introduce the city centre clean air zone, which is on pages 31 to 39. It provides an update to Cabinet on the progress of work to date with DEFRA and seeks approval to begin an official public and stakeholder conversation on the introduction of a clean air zone prior to the statutory consultation, which will take place in the summer. Laura, do you want to say a few words?
The words are the same as I've just said, Wendy, there. You know, it's about cleaning our air, reducing our carbon and getting people to use buses and active travel and that whole agenda. So it's really important. I'm really pleased we've got this here today. Thank you to all the officers.
Okay, thank you. Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yeah, thanks. Item F is the Notre School expansion works on pages 40 to 45. And the recommendation seeks approval to allocate 900,000 from the Council's Basic Needs Grant to fund works to enable the school to expand by 30 places per year group. Barbara, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, please, Chair. When we look forward, we can see the increasing numbers of young people in the city, according to the census. So this is an additional form entry at Notre Dame site, which will accommodate an increase, I think, of about a quarter in the pupil population in the area. So it's really important that we plan ahead so that we have sufficient places for young people. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Any further comments? No? Are the recommendations agreed? Item G is the consideration of the consultation responses and determination of potential direction of the Article 4 direction in relation to houses in multiple occupation in Anfield, Central, Greenbank, Kensington and Fairfield, Picton, Princes Park, Riverside, Tuebrook and Stoneycroft, Wavertree Ward and parts of Kirkdale and Church wards. That's on pages 46 to 79, and the Cabinet resolved in September 2020 to make the Article 4 direction to remove permitted development rights for the change of use in a dwelling house into small scale house in multiple occupation, and there was a requirement to consult on this prior to it coming into effect. The report summarises the representations received and the recommendation seeks approval for the areas outlined in the report to be confirmed as an Article 4.1 Direction 2020 to be brought into effect on the 17th of June 2021. Barry, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, this is a proposal to extend our Article 4 provision in the city in exactly the same way that we did with the Dales in the Greenbank ward. we've had it's one of the biggest responses that we've had to consultation. We had just over 850 responses, 81% of which were in support of the implementation of the Article 4 direction, and this means that any houses that the developers want to convert into multi-occupancy for 4 people and above will now, after this decision and once it's been implemented, will have to seek planning permission, and given that the local plan and the agreement of the planning inspector with the local plan has made it clear that house for dwellings shouldn't be converted to multi-occupancy. It means that if developers now from the 17th of June want to convert a dwelling or any property into a house of multi-occupation, absolutely need to get the support of the cabinet, the council and the local community, so that we don't blight areas and streets like Woodcroft Road in Picton, which have got over 30 HMOs in one street, and that are helping to loosen and reduce the fabric of a strong local community. So this is this is exactly the right thing that we need to do. It now takes HMOs into the control of the council and the community where they weren't before, and I recommend it with great pride to the cabinet and the city.
Thanks, Barry. And I know being one of those wards involved, what a massive difference that will make. Any other comments?
Wendy, I don't think I need to, but can I just declare an interest in this just out of an excess of caution? Because and I'll not vote on it if that's all right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Can I just add one thing, please, Wendy?
Sure.
That just to say that there are over 850 submissions, and those submissions are available if members want to see those submissions. Just to say, but it was an overwhelming response, and I think it's an important sign of support for our communities that have really struggled under the development of and conversion of houses into multi-occupation.
Thanks, Barry.
Chair, can I come in, please? Can I just ask Councillor Brandt just to clarify what his interest is for the record, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. My former, I got a flat in Riverside ward. I don't think it would in any way fall under this, but just out of an excess of caution, I'm going to take it out, remove myself from this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul and Peter. Any further comments? No. Are the recommendations therefore agreed? Yeah, thank you. And I know that will bring great relief to lots of residents right across the city. So well done, Barry. And I know Lynnie started some work before that, and I know Laura and many other councillors, myself included, have campaigned for this for quite a long time. So great result. Thanks to everyone and all our officers involved, particularly Darren Hardy, who's worked really hard on this to get this underway and make sure those wards are protected. Item H, which is the procurement of statutory advocacy services, which is on pages 80 to 86. And the recommendation seeks approval to undertake an open procurement to commission providers of statutory advocacy services in order to assist people, no matter how complex their needs, to be able to express their wishes and feelings, and also support them to weigh up their own options and making their own decisions. Paul, did you want to say a few words?
Thanks very much, Acting Mayor. This is an important contract extension just within the terms of the original procurement, just to make sure we, first of all, continue the services, these really important services for some very vulnerable people, and gives us the opportunity at the expiry of the extension period of making sure that we can align all of our statutory services in due course. So thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Anybody else? No? Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yeah, Thank you. Item I, which is the contract extension for substance misuse treatment and recovery service for adults and young people, and service user consultation service, which is on pages 87 to 92 of a report, and the recommendation seeks approval to grant extensions of those contracts with We Are Within Them and Big Life from the 1st of April 2021 to the 31st of March 2022 to enable the services to maintain support to service users during the continued period of the pandemic, and for commissioners to learn the lessons of the last 12 months. These services provide support for adults and young people in the city suffering from the impact of substance abuse. Paul, do you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Chair. Along with the last report, to get this together, make sure that we have both the advice services and also the substance misuse services, which are key aspects of our provision for some of our most excluded individuals in the city. So I would recommend this to the Cabinet.
Thanks. Any other comments? No? The recommendations are set out in the report. Agreed. Thanks. Item J is the Liverpool Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Grant, which is on pages 93 to 97, and the recommendation seeks approval to accept a grant from the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority, so the Council can provide a further £200 support payment to eligible taxi drivers. This will provide some assistance to drivers who have faced significant challenges due to the restrictions on trading for the hospitality and retail sector through COVID. Any comments? Gary?
Thank you, Wendy. Just to say thank you to the officers and to yourself for supporting the taxi drivers in this way. This is money coming from the combined authority, now coming to Liverpool City Council. It's 3,886 taxi drivers. Each will get £200. It's almost £800,000. It's definitely going to help. I'd just like to see in the future more money for taxi drivers. They're a very valuable part of our local economy, and actually it's in some cases the lifeblood to getting people to hospitality venues, to shops, etc. So great job by everybody, but let's continue to do more in the future to help those people out. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. And I know yourself, myself and others throughout the city region have been lobbying government for just that. So thanks for everyone's efforts. Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yeah, thanks. Item K is the developing a cultural strategy for Liverpool on pages 98 to 167, and it seeks endorsement and agree to the publication of the developing a cultural strategy for Liverpool, which considers in light of COVID how Liverpool's artists, creative enterprises and cultural organisations can collectively develop a new model that is both more creatively ambitious and outward looking and more resilient to external shocks, while opening up opportunities for new funding and investment. Any comments from anybody? No? Are the recommendations? Oh, sorry, Gary.
Yeah, I must speak about this. Wendy, you are the acting mayor today, but since 2010, you've been leading with the team in Culture Liverpool on all things culture, funding organisations, further lifebloods, that golden thread that makes the city vibrant, exciting, friendly, welcoming, all the attractions, all of the events that we have. Part of that is down to your leadership. And I've just got to say, I want to see a formal thank you to you for all that you've done in culture leading up to today. And I don't want people watching this live, members of the public, etc., that just think, oh, there is a politician, there is a cabinet, there is an acting mayor, without knowing your history. If it wasn't for the hard work of you and Claire and the team, we would not have increased our visitors to the city and the city region. In 2008, it was 30 million people, 30. And in 2019, the STEAM report that came out by the city region said that had increased to 67 million people. That is visitors to the city region because they think what a great place it is, and Liverpool is, to visit because of a lot of the work that actually some of it is down to your hard work together, as I said before, with the team. So I just want to see formal recognition for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. And as you said, it is a real team effort. There are lots of people, both within the council and our partners outside, that really make, you know, these things happen, and our communities who come together with us to actually not just attend the events, but take part in some of the wider planning as well. So a massive thanks to you for, you know, your thanks to me, but I do have to say it is a real team event right across the city. So thanks for that. Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yep, thank you. Item L is Paddington Village, the Brownfield Land Fund, on pages 168 to 174. And following a report approved by Cabinet in December 2020 on the progress of this project, the report seeks approval for authority for the council to increase the Brownfield Land Fund grant from 3.6 million to approximately 4.3 million, as well as changes to the procurement route as outlined in the report. This will help support the growth and job creation in the health, science, research and education sectors. Any comments? No. Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Thank you. Supplementary agenda, we have 5 further public recommendations to consider as published on Thursday, and that's the item N, the Schools Capital Programme, on pages 1 to 6 of that supplementary agenda, which seeks authority to commit resources from specific schools capital allocations for the proposed planned maintenance programme for 2021-22, with projects aimed at tackling specific conditions and operational priorities as outlined in the list of schemes in the report. Barbara, do you want to say a few words?
Thanks, Chair. Emphasise this is an annual programme that is basically about maintenance of our school stock. Of course, the investment is always welcome to keep everything as it should be. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yeah. Item N, which is also an education one, Education MIS Capita 1 contract, which seeks approval to enter into a further 4-year contract with Capita from the 1st of April to enable the support and maintenance of the existing module suite, as well as an additional 6 new modules to help transform the delivery of a number of public and internal facing services, which include the implementation of transport and free school meals portals. Barbara, again, do you wish to speak to this?
Thanks. Yes. Just to say, last year we extended this contract for 1 year, but now we've gone out to procurement and looked at it. It was still the best to stick with Capita 1. And so this contract will now be for 4 years, which brings a bit of stability, actually. Thank you.
Thanks. Any further comments? No. Are the recommendations agreed? Yeah. Thank you. The next item there is the protection of Liverpool's parks and green space, and this recommendation seeks approval to implement Liverpool's wish to protect all of our city's parks and green spaces for future generations through a partnership with Fields in Trust. This partnership will implement legal protections to protect parks in perpetuity for the benefit of the citizens of Liverpool, and the parks will remain within the ownership of Liverpool City Council, just to make that clear, and they will also be managed by Liverpool City Council. So we will be the first local authority to adopt this vision of ensuring equal access to green space in perpetuity for all its citizens. It will be a phased approach, but all of those 100 green spaces and parks will be protected over the coming years. Sharon, would you like to say a few words as a Cabinet member?
I'd just like to start by saying, Wendy, I'd like to place on record my thanks to you. I'm extremely proud to work alongside you, our officers, Friends of Parks Groups and Fields in Trust. You know, Liverpool is a city known for leading the way. By approving the report today, we, as you mentioned, will be the first local authority in the country who is taking steps to protect our parks and green spaces for future generations. And we all know during the pandemic, our parks and green space have been a lifeline for so many of our residents and access to quality green space is at the heart of our city plan. So we have a clear vision that every resident in our city is within a 10-minute walk to high quality green space. And our Great Outdoor Pledge, which is part of our COVID-19 recovery plan, is a clear commitment to invest in our parks over the next 3 years to create apprenticeships and bring about the health and wellbeing community benefits. So the report sets out our vision, as you've mentioned, Wendy, around the partnership with Fields in Trust to commence the phased approach. Phase 1 is detailed in the report, with 2 phases to be completed by the end of 2023, which it will include over 100 sites of land being protected. So it is a pioneering partnership that will benefit residents for years to come. And I'm so proud to work with you, Wendy, to bring this report to Cabinet today.
Thanks, Sharon. Barry?
Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Sharon, for this. I think just wanted to say in 2002, the Lib Dems produced a plan to build 2 rows of houses inside Norris Green Park that were stopped because of due to local opposition. Since then, there's been a great Friends of Norris Green Park group that have just done so many improvements and continuing to do improvements in that park, which is a gem and a hidden gem in Norris Green. And they are fully supportive of this proposal, because we need to give that assurance to the city that parks will always remain parks.
Thanks, Barry. And I know Sharon has met with all the Friends groups this week who are absolutely delighted. A number of them have been working with Fields and Trusts. And I think it's just for people who don't know, we do already have a green space protected by Fields and Trust. King George V playing fields in Liverpool 16 that's been protected since 1988, I think. So it is a long-standing organisation whose recommendation is making sure green spaces remain available. It's not a trust in the way people think of trusts, so they don't run and own them. The park remains, as I said before, democratically under the leadership of Liverpool City Council. So are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yeah, thank you. If we move on then to item P, which is Adult Social Care Disabled Facilities Grant, additional funding for 2020-21 on pages 35 to 39. And this report seeks approval for the Council to accept an additional allocation of funding for the Adult Social Care Disabled Facilities Grant to help support the local authority to deliver more home adaptations for those people with disabilities who qualify for this funding. It will provide adaptations to the home to help older and disabled people to live as independently and safely as possible within their homes where agreed locally. A portion of the grant may also be used for wider social care capital programmes, and there's over £1 million in this grant, which is absolutely amazing. Paul, do you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I think this is a welcome supplement to our Disabled Facilities Grant money. This is a project which funds lifeline adaptations to enable people to continue living independently in their own homes. It makes sure that they can maximise their quality of life. And also it is a win-win because it reduces the cost which would otherwise be incurred to the council of people having to go into care or into hospital. So I fully endorse the recommendation of this report to accept the grant. It's a very oversubscribed pot of money every year, as everybody will know, so I fully endorse the recommendation.
Thanks, Paul. Barry?
Yeah, we've been meeting together with Pam Thomas as well around those people who are stuck in their current housing accommodation, which is totally unsuitable, but they're on Access Liverpool, and we're looking at various different approaches about how we can use and support, including the Disabilities Facilities Grant, to enable those people to be able to move into much more suitable accommodation. Some of them have been on Access Liverpool for years, and I think initiatives like this are so important because it just gives and offers people hope, because they're in a situation through the only reasons they've fallen into long-term illness or are now subject to having to are dealing with a disability, which means that they can't really live in where they are at the moment. And this gives us and helps us to give us an opportunity to give them a chance to live in a house, in a home with dignity and with independence, which is exactly what we should be doing as a council. So well done, Paul, and I fully support this.
Thanks. Pam?
Thanks, Wendy. Yeah, I'd just like to back up what Barry and Paul have said. I've been working quite closely with them on this and related issues. Over 90% of housing is not accessible to people with mobility impairments. And most people who have mobility impairments didn't start life that way. It happens later on in life, and the older people get, the more likely it is to happen. And the Disabled Facilities Grant does make the real difference, as already been said, between being able to live a full life in the community and independently, rather than having to rely on other people. Some people will still need that additional help, which is fine, but a lot of it is to do with the house itself not being accessible or adaptable in some cases. And the other part of this, of course, is the initiative we have to push for all new homes to already be more accessible and adaptable. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Paul and Barry. And it's great to see that cross-portfolio work, because we've set out in our city plan to enable sort of us to meet the demands of all of our communities right across the city. Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yeah. Thank you. We now move on to two partially exempt reports. I suggest that we consider those reports as published in the main agenda to this meeting, as only appendices to these reports are exempt. So unless Cabinet members have any questions on those, then we can consider the main reports in public. Are there any questions? No? Then we can go on to consider those now. So part 2, item 3A is pages 195 to 272 of the main agenda, and that's the North West Mutual Bank. And the report provides an update on the possibility of setting up the North West Mutual Bank, which the council has been exploring with 2 other partner councils, and seeks authority to jointly fund the cost and resource to take the mutual bank to the banking licence application stage and enter into an equal split cost sharing agreement with the partner councils. The report seeks further approval to receive a further update on progress in advance of the of committing any further costs. The bank's focus will be serving the needs of the whole of the North West region, providing a safe and ethical and supportive bank which will lend to businesses that are creating jobs and invest in high quality, sustainable homes by driving improvement and home ownership. Barry?
Thanks, Wendy. I think this is a real step change in terms of what local authorities can do. I think when there's an absence of investment from government, which in an area like Liverpool, which we are seeing now, or when we're losing some of the investment funds that we used to get and rely on that we got as a member of the European Union through all the various grants and support that they got. This provides an element of some independent investment and financing in local infrastructure, local businesses, particularly green businesses, and also that it offers us the opportunity of, when we're developing homes for rent to buy or shared ownership, that we can use the North West Mutual Bank and the funds there to support and offer mortgages in support of that. And it fills a gap where businesses are not getting the support from banks from loans, because they've contracted the loans to local businesses, causing them to struggle. And it also reestablishes a mutual bank, given that we've lost nearly all of our mutual banks over the last 20 years. So I think this is a really good initiative. It mirrors something that's happening in the southwest in Avon region, and I think it offers it's another string to our bow, and can provide that investment, secure investment that local businesses and individuals in the city aren't able to get from anywhere else. So I really commend it. Thanks for bringing it to Cabinet.
Thanks. And as I say, it's been an ongoing partnership with both Preston and Wirral councils, and further work will be undertaken. And I know there is a lot of interest from other organisations and perhaps other local authorities across the northwest. And as you say, as well as local businesses and local people, it's a facility also our credit unions can work alongside to really to look at our placemaking in those communities, particularly in those that really struggle to get access to a bank account, which obviously then disadvantages them quite often in being able to have direct debits and get the benefit of cheaper rates sometimes in respect of a number of things. So yeah, well done to everybody involved. I know it's been a long time coming, and particularly the officers in the finance department who've really worked closely in bringing this together. So thanks to Paul Jones and the team there who've, sort of liaised with the other local authorities. Are the reports are set out in the report agreed? Recommendations, set out in the report agreed? Thank you. The next item is item 3B in part 2, which is 273 to 292, and it's the Culture Arts Investment Programme, and updates Cabinet on the status of the cultural organisations that have been supported through our Arts Investment Programme, and to report ongoing impacts of the 2020 pandemic on this funded portfolio. The report seeks approval for continued funding and non-financial support in the financial year 2021-22, which will enable Liverpool's cultural sector to survive and play a crucial role in our post-COVID economic recovery. It includes funding of 27 organisations which are outlined in that report. Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yep, thank you. We have no report for agenda items 5 and 6. Item number 7 is the Chief Finance Officer's report, and we have 2 finance reports to consider, both of which are part of our monthly monitoring of our financial position. Item A, under item number 7, is the Capital Programme Monitor for 2020-21, month 10, January 2021, and provides an update in respect of the current financial year at month 10. Mel, would you like to say a few words?
Chair, I think there might have been a slight error in the published documents. I think only the appendices have been published for the revenue report. So I can either just quickly take you through the position, which will be very brief, or I can bring the revenue one back to the next Cabinet meeting.
Do you want to go through it, which will be very brief?
I will, yes.
Thank
so
you.
In terms of the revenue position at month 10, that's a 2.1 million underspend. So we won't need to call, at the moment, we won't be calling on any of our reserves to balance the books in this financial year. The main movement is around children's social care. And there has been a reduction in the overspend in that area. Thank you.
Anybody have any comments on that? No, but well done, Mel and the team. Great effort, particularly over, I know Linny said at the beginning of the meeting when we were talking about funding coming in on top of having to manage our own budget, having to manage those funds, quite often coming quite late, quite often with unclear criteria we've had to work through. So working with other officers, you've done an amazing job across the year. So my thanks to everybody in your team and other officers outside of your team who've supported you with that. Are the recommendations as set out in the report agreed? Yeah, thank you. And then item B is the revenue monitor for 2021, again month 10 of the current financial year, and provides an update as where we're at this point. Mel, would you like to say a few words?
That's the one I've just done. Sorry, Wendy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry, did I say that before? Didn't I say the capital programme? before?
I think
Sorry.
you did them both.
Oh, right. Sorry. So that's both of them. Right.
Wendy, your screen's dropped.
Oh, right.
Camera's off.
My camera's off. Oh, it's on here, so it must be an issue with Teams. Can you still hear me? I'm still up on my screen, if you know what I mean. My camera is working because
we can see you. We can see you.
Oh, right.
Can't hear you.
Oh, right. Okay, no problem. So is that agreed, given we've agreed it before? I didn't realise I'd done both, sorry. We have no reports for agenda item 8. Item 9 is mayoral announcements. I'd like to wish a belated St Patrick's Day to all of those people who are celebrating St Patrick's Day. I know we had an incident in Sefton Park, and I also want to thank all the community and the Friends of Sefton Park for the massive clean-up. But I'd also like to thank all of those Irish diaspora in this city and beyond who have strong links to the city, who celebrated St Patrick's Day sensibly, at home or within their bubbles, and look forward to celebrating with them next year. We also had World Social Work Day this year on Tuesday, and it gave us the opportunity to recognise and celebrate the incredible work that everybody in the social work sector do, particularly the work that they've done over the last 12 months. The work often does go unnoticed, and I think it's really important that we say a huge thank you. They're often seen, social work staff, in the press for lots of negative things, but I know from experience the real benefit they bring to our communities and to our families. So well done to everybody, both within Liverpool City Council and right across the world, for the amazing job that you do day in, day out, year on year. I'll bring people in near the end. I have seen people indicating, but I'll just get through these and then bring people in. Also, we've had the Depot, Liverpool's new purpose-built film and TV stages, officially named. The Depot taking its name from, I remember it, and I'm sure most do, when the MTL, Merseyside Transport Limited, their bus depot used to be based there. So I think it's apt, you know, for it to be named that. It's one of our major projects earmarked in Liverpool's recovery plan to stimulate the economy post-pandemic, and while we await our permanent film studios in the Littlewoods building. As people are aware, as we've mentioned many times at Cabinet, you know, we are the most film city outside of London, and it's critical and fantastic for our city to cement our reputation as one of Europe's premier film and TV production hubs. It's also really, really important because as we move forward, particularly with the Littlewoods project and the training opportunities that will take place there, both educationally and via apprenticeships, that our young people and people who are retraining for new jobs will be able to train in something that they'll be able to stay in their city with that skill and won't have to move away. This week as well, we'll see 12 months since we began our country's lockdown. It's really hard to believe it's a year. In some ways, it seems very much longer. And to mark this, we will be having a day of reflection in the city called Liverpool Together, because I think that very much explains what we've done in our communities right across the city. People right across the country will recognise the challenges and heartbreak that we've faced in Liverpool, and we will have a 1-minute silence observed at midday, and a special event will be broadcast both on radio and online. Again, I'd like to express my thanks to all our frontline staff in Liverpool City Council and beyond, and all of those who work behind the scenes, who aren't frontline staff but enable those to do their jobs. And I'd particularly like to thank all those in the council who actually moved out of their comfort zone to do jobs they'd never done before and come together to help to support local councillors and local communities and faith groups, really make sure we tried to reach as many people as we could during this really, really difficult year. So a massive thanks to everybody. If I have got Barry, then Linny, then Paul, in that order.
Yeah, I just want to underline what you've just said about the way people have pulled together throughout this whole COVID period, and still are. We still got a little bit further to go, as I'm sure Paul's going to say in a minute. But it's but it just shows what we can all do when we work together, and with our communities as well, and obviously to remember all of those people who have sadly lost their lives over this, and loved ones over this period as well. I just wanted to just to remind Cabinet that on Wednesday we are breaking ground at Denford Road, which is, you know, the first, again, this is the first time I've said it before, but it's always worth repeating. This is the first time in 30 years that the council will have council housing, and just shows what we do as a council and as a local authority, you know, building on all the great work that we've done since 2010 and what we've still got plans for, and the things that we are still doing going forward.
Thanks, Barry. Yeah, amazing news, and I know, I'm sure Barbara and her colleagues are really excited about that, and the local residents. Linny?
Thanks, Chair. And just to echo what you said around Social Work Day, I know we have days throughout the year for teachers, for Social Workers Day, but I just want to say it's not just social workers, it's everyone that's working in children's social care. It's our PA, it's our children's centre staff. I think we should be celebrating, because everyone, for me, in terms of those working in social care for children, should be. So hats off to all of them, really.
Thank you. Paul?
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, no, just to endorse what's been said about the fantastic work that our social work teams do, both in children's and adults. It's a real accolade to the way in which they add to binding our communities together, giving support to people at a moment or a period of crisis in their lives. And without the interventions, our city would be a less resilient place. So huge thank you to all members of staff. And I would strongly recommend a career in social work to anybody who out there is looking at their potential career options. It's a fantastic way of giving something back to your wider city. As Barry foreshadowed quite rightly, I'm going to also say wonderful work for the city and the way it's pulled together again to really bring the virus levels down here on a public health front. We have shown collectively that we have an amazing ability to bind together and to take a wider community-based set of actions which have delivered more than once now and shown that we can drive the virus levels down. But although the vast majority of people have abided by all the rules all the time, I know this has been a really long, really hard winter for everybody. But and I know particularly if you're young, that it can sometimes feel like a lot of ability to mix with your friends, etc., has been deprived of you. And but the events that we saw in Sefton Park are very regrettable. They are very isolated. We're working very closely with our police colleagues, but they are very much the exception. If anybody thinks this issue has gone away, please just look over the English Channel at the moment and look at what's happening in France and Germany, where they are in the process of implementing a third lockdown. Please, let's not throw away all the excellent work that we've achieved and all the progress that we've achieved in the city so far. And anyone who, like me, is now just qualifying for the vaccine, get on there and make sure you get your vaccine. Don't miss your slot. And hopefully, I'm going to feel a little prick later on today.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, it's really, really important, as you say, for us to keep following those guidances, particularly as some of those lockdown restrictions ease. And again, a massive thanks to Matt and the team for keeping us all really, really well informed, well updated, not just us here at the Cabinet and in the Council, but the wider community. I think our information sharing, publicity around the virus in the city and city region has been amazing. And I think that has helped people get the messages now. I know sometimes it's a lot to keep, sort of repeating them, but I think some of the things have got into people's daily routines, and it's important we continue to do that. So thanks, everybody. We now have 2 final items of business to deal with, which are fully exempt. But before I formally move the resolution to end the public part, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everybody who has viewed today's meeting. It has been quite a full agenda, and I wish you all have a great weekend. And if you're viewing in a fortnight, we'll see you then.